My hometown was a rather grey mining village located in the Middle Valleys area of South Wales, situated midway between the heavy industrial area of Merthyr Tydfil in the north and the historic town of Caerphilly in the south. It had a resemblance to the town in How Green Was My Valley, but with a few stark differences to that romantic portrayal of life in the valleys. The coal-blackened faces of the miners winding their way homes from their shifts underground were certainly there. However, there was no sign of them singing their hearts out as they were greeted by their loving wives at the front doors of their houses, nor were their smiling children ready with a tin bath full of hot soapy water in front of a roaring fire to wash their fathers' backs. In this town, the miners were more likely to have gone straight into the local pub and to have been physically dragged out by their spouses later in the day, the women determined to get their housekeeping money safely in their purses, as opposed to filling the coffers of the local public house landlords. These were hard men in many ways, with wives to equal them. When I was a youngster growing up in the South Wales valleys, it seemed like the best place on earth. We had our well-trusted gang of friends. We had a vast expanse of mountain area to explore, and we had the run of the busy town. We also had a number of other places, like the colliery, in which to amuse ourselves. This was our patch, and we jealously guarded it against all outsiders. Fights between gangs of youths from rival villages and towns were commonplace, and were often quite violent. During these pitched battles, it was not unusual for serious injuries to be inflicted. One teenage lad from a village north of our town had a near escape when he was thrown from the bridge over the railway line. The police arrived and dragged him off the line just a few moments before the Merthyr to Cardiff train would have sliced straight through him. The town had built up a notoriety that was soon to be brought to the attention of the gangs in larger places, like Cardiff and Caerphilly. A showdown was destined to happen. Late on a particular Friday night, the packed-out Cardiff train pulled into the local station and spilled out its load of invaders. They were greeted with a hail of bottles, bricks, iron bars, and whatever else was throwable. The large crowd that had come to give the youth of our town a lesson was soon on their way home. From the very start of my teenage years, life was just good fun, marred only by the unfortunate requirement to attend school. The school had been founded at the beginning of the century and had started its career in the higher elementary role. It was regarded as a fine specimen of selective education for post-primary pupils. It had been formally recognized as a secondary school some years later and had become a grammar school in the years just after the First World War. To me, it was a large, daunting red brick building where the only objective of the black-gowned teachers was to see how many times a day they could have me standing outside the headmaster's office for an inevitable caning. From day one, it seemed that every teacher knew me intimately. The unfortunate legacy of having an elder brother at the same school, a brother who had gained a reputation that was too easily passed on. I was destined to be the target of certain teachers' attentions, but not always to the benefit of my education. In my 4th and 5th years at grammar school, I would regularly wear 2 pairs of underpants, my swimming trunks and a pair of rugby shorts under my grey school trousers, in an effort to minimize the stinging pain of the bamboo stick. This was all very well, until the headmaster who dealt out the punishment, a red-faced authoritarian, changed his tactics and administered the cane across the palm of the hand. I would bend over in readiness. This worked sometimes, but on other occasions the sight of my well-padded buttocks probably influenced his decision to dispense the penalty across my fingers instead. Our little gang would get up to all kinds of mischief and misdemeanors, which were probably to stand me in good stead for the future. My hometown and the surrounding area were an excellent training ground for a potential life of running, hiding, sneaking about and being able to talk oneself out of a dilemma.